John Eustace has addressed the Derby County media heading into a huge relegation fixture versus Hull City. But what has he had to say and how does it come across to the fans? Now, John Eustace was keen to talk about the journey that he's been on since coming to Derby County and how relentless it has been. But he was keen to make it clear that all the Derby County fans and players must stick together ahead of a huge game on Saturday versus Hull City. Now, John Eustace says that it is a great position for him to be in with Derby County on the edge of that relegation zone, considering the circumstances just a few weeks ago when Derby County was 7 points adrift of safety. Now, he does make it clear that the most important thing is taking each game as it comes, and he wasn't there to put down the challenge that Hull City is going to be. He certainly thinks it's going to be a massive one. Now, Dom Dietrich did ask John Eustace if he thought that it was a must-win game or a must-not-lose, to which John Eustace made it clear this is just the next opportunity to pick up 3 points, and it's a big game, just like every game that we have had since John Eustace took charge of the club. He said that the main challenge this weekend is to pick up 3 points, and he wasn't going to be drawn into that comment about it being a must-win or a must-not-lose. He just wants this Derby County side to show that they're competitive against teams in and around them. Now, he was also asked a question about Luton Town's early kickoff, which he was quite happy to rebuttal, saying that he didn't even know Luton Town were playing early, and he says that he doesn't care about what happens for Luton Town. He's got a sole focus on Derby County, which I think for everybody is very clear and obvious, and that is what Derby County absolutely need. None of this looking at the table, none of this looking at results going on as we're playing and before the game gets underway, because you don't want to apply that extra pressure. Because obviously if Luton Town were to pick up 3 points, that ultimately means we have to win. If Luton Town were to lose, it means we just need a draw to keep ourselves in that bright position. So you've got these things that you don't really want to get into the player's head, which I think is really smart with John Eustace. Now, he has given a heap of praise to 2 players within the squad across the course of this interview, starting off with Josh Vickers, who he was keen to point out the incredible save that was made at the weekend by Vickers. I think it was around the 39th minute, and what an incredible save it was. If copyright allows me, I'll try and put the clip in this video, but most of the time it won't let me do it. But it was a great save by Josh Vickers, which I think kept the score at 2-0 at the time, which was obviously massive for Derby County heading into half-time. It meant that they had a 2-goal lead to hold on to into the second 45. It meant that even if West Brom got a goal back, there was still the possibility that Derby County could continue to push on. Now, he says that he's acclimatised well since jumping in as the number 1 goalkeeper, obviously with Jakob Vidal-Zetterstrom's injury. And Eustace is really happy with his attitude and had no worries about putting him in once he heard the news of Zetterstrom's injury. Now, the important thing about this is that we know that Josh Vickers has ability. Now, the big question mark for me around Vickers was always about, is he good enough to be a championship keeper? Now, I'm not going to turn around and say he is or he isn't, but I certainly think with some of the keepers we've had over the past, he's probably not one of the better ones, and ultimately was kept on the bench by Joe Wildsmith last season and has been kept on the bench all season by Jakob Vidal-Zetterstrom. But I am really impressed with how Josh Vickers has stepped in. I don't think he was horrific against Luton. I thought he actually had a fairly decent game. Obviously not a great deal to deal with. Obviously heading into West Brom, that's when you sort of have a little bit more of a worry when you're playing those better teams who are potentially going to have more opportunities. But I felt like Josh Vickers and the back line in general sort of dealt with it really well. And if we go back to other times when we've swapped goalkeepers for injuries or suspensions or anything like that, I do feel like we've often seen a change in the dynamic of the defensive structure and obviously not trusting of the defence, essentially not trusting the goalkeeper from corners and free kicks and things like that. But I haven't noticed any of that from my personal perspective. Obviously, if you have, let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll be sure to obviously give that a look. But I think if you go back to like when we had Keller Roos and things like that, you'd have sort of like the defenders that we were playing at the time. I think Matt Clark was one of them at the time, Curtis Davis, Andre Wisdom, things like that. You could see sort of how much they didn't trust him by sort of how deep they'd drop on occasions and things like that. And that's obviously something that I think that we haven't had with Josh Vickers coming in now. And I think that's obviously really good for Derby County. Obviously, we have played quite deep in recent weeks as well, which obviously gives sort of Josh Vickers that sort of extra element of cover, because that's sort of how we've been playing. Sit in, defend well, hit on the counter, and I think we've done really well with that, making the most of our set pieces as well. Now, Obviously, the other player who John Eustace has spoke about across the course of this press conference is Jerry Yates. Obviously, I'm going to make a video about Jerry Yates when this season is over. Obviously, the content in the video will be changing depending on whether we stay up or go down, but the key elements will be the same. Now, John Eustace was keen to point out that he was really impressed with Jerry Yates. He's a proper team player, has a high work rate on and off the ball, and is actually really impactful on and off the ball that maybe some fans don't necessarily see. He thinks that Jerry Yates has been a pleasure to work with since joining the club, and he hopes that he bags another couple of goals before the season ends. And he sort of believes that Jerry Yates has thrived off being that one and only option as the striker. Now, obviously, for me, I think when we talk about Jerry Yates, a lot of people are going to put in the comments about the chances he's missed and some of the opportunities that he has had that you argue if he had taken, Derby County could probably be safe right now. And ultimately, I do agree with you. I do think that he's missed some absolutely massive chances. I think there was one versus Burnley in the first half. There's obviously, I think there was a couple at Pompey. There was one... There was one at the week. Did he miss one at the weekend, or was it Luton? I think he missed one. So he's missed a couple of really, really big chances, which have obviously impacted Derby County's position in the table. But I think for me, I think Jerry Yates has been massive for Derby County this season. Obviously, he's on double figures goals. I think he's got 4 assists as well, which is obviously huge, especially as a team who are trying to stay in the division. I know some of the other teams in that position have a striker who's probably on 13, 14. But for me, like he's played his part both on and off the ball. He's scored goals. He's created goals. He's been an absolute menace off the ball, in my opinion, and I think you can't give him enough praise for how he has played. And he could have downed tools at any point this season, and in my opinion, he hasn't. And I think that's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, there has been occasions where both him and Marcus Harness haven't ran that extra yard for a ball, and I do agree that he should, and both of them should. But ultimately, on the whole, I think he's been a very, very good player for Derby County. Now, obviously, the loan deal is coming to an end at the end of the season, and obviously John Eustace addressed that a few weeks ago, where he said that he isn't going to be having those conversations about whether Yates will come back or not until, obviously, 1, we know what division we're in, and 2, the season's over. Now, I don't think Yates will come back, but I'm going to make a video on why I believe we should go in for him should we stay up. The content of the video, as I mentioned earlier, may change a little bit, obviously depending on the division. Now, obviously, to end this video, we're going to do a short, brief segment about the injuries. We'll have a full video about that out tomorrow morning, so make sure you've hit the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned and give more of a in-detail update on what is going on with those injured players. Now, Kmart Roof is back available for selection, as is Corey Blackett-Taylor. Now, I personally don't think Corey Blackett-Taylor will be ready, and essentially, I don't think he'll play until the end of the season. But I'll get into that in my video tomorrow morning. Callum Elder, there's an outside chance of him being available for the final 2. There was rumours of a leg break from someone on Twitter, which I'll put on screen either in this video or the other video to sort of discuss. And John Eustace has put that to bed and said that isn't the case. Jeff Hendrick will miss this weekend with a calf injury, and he's hoping that he'll be back for that final weekend of the season. Obviously a massive game against Stoke City. John Eustace was also keen to stress the importance of the squad while talking about these injured players, about how important they've been on and off the pitch, whether it be on the training field, off the training field, in the dressing rooms and things like that. And he says that everyone has a role, even if they aren't starters, aren't in the 20. They need to be ready to play and to be called upon. And obviously he wants more strength and depth, but he's happy with what he's working with and the players are fighting, which is obviously the most important thing. Now, obviously, John Eustace has got a massive job on his hands. Realistically, win both games, nothing to worry about. Lose both games, got a problem. Draw both games, got a problem. Now, we aren't going to know what Derby County need until the season ends, and I've said this for a while. I said a couple of months ago, I think it was a video where I said why Derby County have relegated themselves. I said that Derby County need near on playoff form to stay in this division, and at the moment I think it's 19 points since John Eustace has taken over, which I think was 12-13 games ago. And I think we probably need 2 more wins, which would put us on, what would it be, 26, I think? 25 in about 15 games. So we wouldn't be far off 2 points a game. So We'll just have to see how it goes on. There will be a video out tomorrow discussing all the injured players for Derby County, who we can expect to see this weekend, and my personal opinions on the likes of Corey Blackett-Taylor and Kmar Roof and whether we'll actually see them on the pitch. Now, if you have not done so already, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Also, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and hit that like button to help push this video to brand new audiences. I'll be back tomorrow with that video talking all about Derby County's injuries.